Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another live stream, and thank you so much for tuning in for another show. Welcome to all of our members, subscribers, and viewers from all across the world. Tonight, we're going to have a long live stream. We're going to be talking about the latest meeting that took place between the Iranian foreign minister, the Iranian president, and even the Iranian supreme leader, with the most senior delegation that came from Saudi Arabia in over a decade to Iran. What that means in context of what's happening now, with reports being leaked now that Donald Trump actually prevented Benjamin Netanyahu from attacking the nuclear facilities in Iran just over a month ago, in what was described in Israel as Donald Trump massively putting a block on Israel. Then we will move on to the responses that are coming from the Palestinian resistance after the Israeli proposal or counter proposal to the delegation's proposal in relation to the ceasefire inside of the Gaza Strip. What are the calls now in Israel? What are they asking Benjamin Netanyahu to do? And also the responses that are coming from the Israeli families of the prisoners of war, alongside the criticism against Ron Dermer, Benjamin Netanyahu's new leader of this delegation, in addition to the increase in the numbers of people who are signing the petitions in Israel, going all out against the campaign of Benjamin Netanyahu and the genocide inside of the Gaza Strip. We're going to begin with the meeting. So the Saudi defense minister, alongside a very senior delegation, they went to Iran. They're going to Iran amidst a very tense climate. Now, there were talks about, Donald Trump preparing to attack, and to the media, he was saying that, if they're not going to agree to a deal, we're going to bomb them. Bombs will be landing. But at the end of the day, he did not really do much. He also said recently that, we prefer to reach an agreement with Iran rather than having a war with them, especially after Benjamin Netanyahu was threatening to go and attack the nuclear facilities, and more requests coming from Israel to attack the Iranian nuclear facilities. Now, let's begin with this video here. There was a video that was published after about the meeting that took place between the Saudi foreign minister and the senior figures inside of Iran.
لا نعرف هذا الشخص. نحن لدينا علاقة خاصة. السنة السعودية في اليمن ومحمد الجابر عليكم السلام شرفنا.
So, very senior meeting between the Saudi defense minister and the top figures inside of Iran. It wasn't just the IRGC, and again, the IRGC is the most important armed group inside of Iran. Iran has, you can call it two armies, the Revolutionary Guards Corps and the Iranian army. And he met with, of course, the top figure in the IRGC. He also met with Masoud Pezeshkian, the Iranian president, and he also met with the supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei. These meetings are very important and very symbolic. And the fact that the defense minister went and met with the supreme leader of Iran, that bears a lot of significance. It's had a lot of importance, especially when it comes to a certain figure in another country that is not the most senior in that country, in the form of the defense minister, meeting with the supreme leader. Now, what did they talk about, and what did it include, and where is this all coming from? Well, to contextualize the warming up of the ties, or getting closer, the relations between Iran and Saudi Arabia isn't something that started today. This started to take big steps, especially from China. China started to take big steps in trying to get both Saudi Arabia and Iran together, especially with their massive success in 2023 when they mediated with the help of Oman to get the Iranians and the Saudis together. And after several talks, both sides sat down and they decided that they will start having relations again after 7 years of very tense periods, especially after the war in Yemen, and also the different approaches and different sides that each country takes in relation to regional tensions and regional political affairs and certain groups that each side might sponsor. So there has been some backing to it. Also, last year, there were drills taking place between Iran and Saudi Arabia. And both countries started to have more and more comments that are indicating that, well, they are actually coming closer together after all of these years of tensions. Now, with China's position, China is taking a position of, well, bringing these countries in the region together rather than push them to fight against each other. Of course, this might sound childish, but there are certain figures in these countries who fall for the pressure, especially external pressure. But the more time went by, the more, well, the Saudi government, the Saudi establishment, they realized that, well, the United States isn't really as it's portraying itself. The United States tries to always use leverage against Saudi Arabia with the protection, showing as, Iran is a constant threat. Iran is the threat to the Arab world. Iran is the threat to all of the countries around it. And Iran has taken certain positions previously that might be translated as such, but other countries did too. However, the United States and Israel were relying on getting Saudi Arabia to their alliance against Iran. And they did not want any of the Arab and Muslim countries to come closer together, because that's part of the strategy. That's part of the strategy of the colonial powers. And Israel is the final colonial state planted there and sponsored now by the United States administration. What did they talk about? They spoke about many subjects, and the defense minister carried out a direct message handwritten by the Saudi king to the supreme leader. So the message that came in this photo was actually a message coming from the Saudi king to the Iranian supreme leader. And the talks were about the fact that we are brothers in general, the reports about these talks, that we are brothers, we don't need any external and foreign interventions, we are stronger when we are together, and we need to coordinate on all levels. And reports that the Saudis came with requests to coordinate on all levels. And when we talk about the Saudi and Iranian coordination, this is beyond Saudi Arabia and Iran. This stretches to Lebanon, this stretches to Syria, this stretches to Iraq, this stretches to Palestine, Egypt, other countries too, because Saudi Arabia and Iran are considered to be the most significant players in the region. Saudi Arabia started to lose this position the more the establishment was more aligned with the United States. But with recent years and recent changes that were happening in Saudi Arabia, clearly there has been a shift, and that shift is being reflected with that meeting with Iran, because the meeting itself resembles a lot. The meeting itself is very symbolic. The people or the countries who want Saudi Arabia to be aligned directly with Israel and the United States, they don't want to see Iran included. They don't want to see these leaders sitting with the Iranian leadership. But clearly, some in the Saudi establishment are realizing that the future is, well, going to see a multipolar world. It's not going to see the United States calling all of the shots. Saudi Arabia and Iran joined the BRICS. They are increasing their ties not only together, but also with international countries. And they are forming stronger bonds together that stretch from security to economy to strategy to foreign coordination, all sorts of things. And this coordination would be very, very important. It would be a game changer for the region, because the United States always relied on the frictions between Saudi Arabia and Iran. And unfortunately, there were many sides who were pushing to further divide the countries of the region between themselves. However, there is a shift. Now, some people are saying Saudi Arabia went and tried to reassure Iran that we will not be participating and we will not be supporting any attack coming from the United States potentially, or Israel against you. Now, that argument is quite weak, because it might have included this, but this isn't something new. Saudi Arabia, from over a decade ago, they reassured Iran that we won't be participating in anything, because they know Iran's capabilities and they also know their vulnerabilities, and they did not want to be part of this. However, these talks stretched beyond that, and also there were reports now that Donald Trump actually applied pressure on Benjamin Netanyahu not to attack Iran. It was reported in the New York Times that Donald Trump waved off Israeli strike after divisions emerged in his administration. Israel developed plans for attacking Iranian nuclear facilities that would have required US assistance, but some administration officials had doubts. This is officially coming out now that Donald Trump stopped them from attacking the nuclear facilities in Iran, in line with the previous administration's position, preventing Israel from attacking nuclear facilities. So when Joe Biden was there too, they had similar communication coming from the administration, and Trump clearly said that to Netanyahu. This led to a very large debate inside of Israel. The debate was around, well, basically, we don't want to open a front against Donald Trump, and this statement from Donald Trump, we have to basically consider everything to do with it before we take any action, because the United States, well, they are the biggest supporter of Israel. Israel relies on them heavily. They have been supporting them all along. But in Israel, no, they're saying don't rush, and don't open a front against Donald Trump. Now, the opposition in Israel is saying that, well, no, we shouldn't submit to the pressure of Donald Trump, and we should attack Iran, regardless of the position of the United States of America. However, this is proving that, well, the talks between Iran and Saudi Arabia, they weren't only talks about Saudi Arabia trying to reassure Iran that the United States, we're not going to support them and we're not going to support Israel with any potential attacks. And they, of course, spoke about economic developments. They spoke about Lebanon, about Syria, all of these things, because there are plans, including economic plans and energy plans to do with exportation from the region to Europe too, with all of the changes. And both countries, if they coordinate, they make it easier for everyone. But there was something very significant that was said and that was reported by Israel, that they did. It's not only that they didn't just, talk about this coordination. Actually, the Saudi foreign minister made a very significant statement. And that statement was in relation to Israel. And this was reported in the Israeli website, Ynet, that is a major website, and that belongs to one of the biggest newspapers in Israel. According to them, the Saudi foreign minister said, the Islamic world must unite against the occupation and the Zionist entity. That's a statement that is very significant coming from a Saudi official. Again, this report only came from Ynet, inside of Israel. They also quoted some statements coming, of course, from the Secretary of the Supreme National Security Council in Iran, saying that Iran and Saudi Arabia are two important large countries. Strategic cooperation between them will bring security and progress in this sensitive region. We are ready for cooperation at all levels, including joint investment. And then they finalized it with the Saudi defense minister said, according to this report, the leaders are determined to establish friendly relations at all levels. The Islamic world must act in a coordinated and united manner against the occupation and expansion of the leaders of the Zionist entity. This is a very significant development coming from Saudi Arabia. So the most intense statements that came from Saudi Arabia came in the form of refusal towards Israel's, of course, actions. I mean, officially they were against what Israel's doing in Gaza, but there were no significant actions like being taken or visible from Saudi Arabia that were enough to apply significant pressure on Israel. There was a statement after Benjamin Netanyahu proposed that some Palestinians might be displaced or should be displaced to Saudi Arabia. Then there were severe statements coming from some Saudi officials. But according to this report, if the Saudi defense minister is calling for a joint cooperation against the Zionist entity, not Israel, when he was in Iran, when he's sitting with the Iranian officials, this is something very dramatic. This is not something that is, to be taken lightly whatsoever. And him meeting with the IRGC and this being the most senior figure coming from Saudi Arabia to Iran. So the talks weren't just about Saudi Arabia trying to reassure Iran and tell them, look, we're not going to support an attack against you. No, there was coordination on all levels, and there were statements about this coordination on all levels. And according to that report in Israel, there was a significant threat against the state of Israel. This is when it comes to the news about Saudi Arabia meeting with Iran and the important developments that are happening, him meeting with the president, with the supreme leader, and with the security establishment inside of inside of Iran. Okay, moving on to the other subjects. Of course, the war is still going on. The genocide is still going on. Israel is still burning children in tents inside of the Gaza Strip. Israel is continuing its barbarism in front of the whole world. And, well, no decisive action has been taken yet to stop them. They are continuing. Recently, they attacked tents sheltering displaced people in a refugee camp, again in Al-Mawasi, near Khan Yunis, and killing disabled people and children, as if, But they see, the thing is, I've been talking about the fact that Israel is applying a campaign purely on the people now, not against the resistance whatsoever. As in, Hamas is not even included. Hamas is not in the range of Israel now. Israel is only interested in civilians. And not only that, Israel is declaring outright that our aim is the civilians, to apply pressure on Hamas. The Israeli defense minister, no humanitarian aid to enter Gaza as a tool of pressure on Hamas. Guys, we have a defense minister of a genocidal entity confirming that there is a campaign, a genocidal campaign on civilians to apply pressure on a movement. So if someone is outright confirming that I am a terrorist and I'm conducting an act of terror as the state of Israel against these people to achieve political gains. This is what they're outright saying. And this is not plastered everywhere. This should be headlines everywhere, that the Israeli foreign minister is saying that. But no, the international countries and countries who are calling for humans, no one's condemning that. The people who are condemning are Hamas, who are condemning Kat's statements that they are applying, they are killing basically infants in Gaza, committing a genocide, as a tool of pressure on Hamas. What is this world that we live in? So they're confirming that they are outright killing children for political purposes, to achieve pressure, to apply pressure on Hamas for the sake of Benjamin Netanyahu. And the world is sitting there as if nothing's happening. The UK lets the genocide foreign minister visit the country, nothing. Some individuals and organizations might, try and take legal action, try and implement the law, hoping that there is some law and some hope on earth. But the state officially, no, welcome. You murdered children, welcome, red carpets. You killed, how many did you kill? 50, 60,000? No problem, welcome, red carpet. We'll secure you, everything's fine. So, still going on. But they are trying their luck with the wrong people in Gaza, because the resistance is still there. And if they want to apply pressure, who are they going to apply pressure on exactly? The Palestinian resistance? Palestinian resistance is not going to submit to the pressure of Israel. And now there was a statement coming, a confirmation coming from the top figure in Hamas, Khalil al-Hayya, who said that, nah, we're not going to accept your deal. We're not going to accept your proposal, but we are ready to conclude a comprehensive deal. And the resistance weapons are linked to the presence of the occupation. So this is of course looking like a positive message, because, well, there is a positive content to it, which is we are ready for an all-out deal. But it's a refusal for the Israeli proposal. Why? Because in the content of the message of Khalil al-Hayya, the senior figure of Hamas, he's saying that it's ridiculous, it's preposterous for Israel to try and have it in writing in any ceasefire agreement that the Palestinians must be disarmed. And that's why he clarified in the second statement that the resistance weapons are linked to the presence of the occupation. And that's what everyone needs to talk about. There is no resistance without occupation. Resistance is a symptom, is an antidote to a virus, to a disease. You get rid of the disease. You don't try and treat the symptom and feeding the disease to grow further. That's what the world needs to be talking about, not disarming a totally legitimate resistance backed and supported by international law, by humanitarian law, by divine law, by every law, really. So he's telling them, you want us to disarm? Remove your occupation from our land. Hamas told them over 2 or 3 decades ago, we prefer not to fight. We prefer to get our rights by simply asking. However, well, we have an example of people who have been talking with Israel for 3 decades. And guess what they've achieved? The absolute opposite. More expansion, more killing in the West Bank. That's the example that I'm talking about. They've been having peace talks since 1993. And guess what Israel did? Increase the population of the squatters in the West Bank from 100,000 to 1 million. More land grabbing, more apartheid, more killing, more brutality, more destruction of homes, more checkpoints, everything. So, the example is not really there. There's not really there, the example of let's talk and please give us, hoping that there's some goodwill in these people, if you can call them people. And it wasn't just this statement coming from Khalil al-Hayya. Another senior figure in Hamas, Jabarin, his name is Zahir Jabarin, he also made some interesting statements. And this man seemed very confident. He said that Netanyahu, he will be paying the price of the genocide sooner or later. Netanyahu is doing this to achieve political goals, but the resistance is here and the resistance will stay here, and Benjamin Netanyahu and the Zionists will pay for their genocide sooner or later. We're here to stay. We're not going anywhere. So, strong messages coming from Hamas that, no, you want to talk about disarming? We're not going to talk about disarming. It isn't going to happen. Disarming, the armed resistance, is tied with occupation and with the brutality and with the apartheid of Israel. Remove that, no problem. Who's going to talk about resistance for what? I mean, the concept is so basic. I mean, it's baffling that, we still need to have this debate. Moving on, what are they saying in Israel after Hamas responded? Because that's important. Because people are ignoring or trying to ignore deliberately, apart from the families of the prisoners of war, who are heavily criticizing Netanyahu and his little poodle, Ron Dermer. Ron Dermer is the man leading the negotiating delegation now. Netanyahu's little poodle, who is some figures in the West were trying to glamorize this man. They saw him. They saw Ron Dermer. And they made some interesting statements after they met with him. Basically, we left the meeting humiliated. There is no plan of action. Tzvika Mor, the father of Eitan Mor, and Ditsa Or, the mother of Avinan Or, they sent messages, and they said that after the meeting with Ron Dermer, following the meeting yesterday, we left the meeting with you angry, humiliated, confused, and exhausted, they wrote. As the hours passed by after the meeting ended, we understood the magnitude and the disaster. Those who did not leave in the current small group are abandoned, as in the prisoners of war. They are abandoned to their fate in the depths of hell, as they called it. We did not understand a single operative proposal from you on how you would manage to return them home. And when, at our request, you gave an estimate of a time frame of 3 to 6 months, but without an action plan, they're saying. So, Ron Dermer, leading the negotiating delegation, who is supposed to be reaching a deal to get these people out, is telling them, 3 to 6 months. But they're saying 3 to 6 months, vague, and no action plan whatsoever. 2 of them also said, we understood the painful and cynical principle. Whoever turns their back on the prime minister all the way is in your pocket anyway. You will meet with him before the partial agreement is closed. Do not dare to discriminate between blood and blood. You do not have permission to surrender and give up the lives of our loved ones. Only all of us together. So what are the families of the prisoners of war saying? Or at least the majority of them? A whole deal, like what Hamas is proposing. A whole deal. At the price of ending the war. This is what they always tell Israel too, and Netanyahu. At any cost, end the war. The declaration of ending the war, whatever it is, we need to pay every price to get the people back. And this is not just the families of the prisoners of war. This is senior figures in the security establishment who are saying we're going to have to pay any price to get the people back and end the war. But Benjamin Netanyahu is doing this for other reasons. Reasons to remain in power, no reasons to do with victory or security or any of that garbage propaganda that he constantly spews. But there were people who were very excited. Two people were very excited about Hamas, basically telling them, forget about it, bugger off, and we're not going to disarm. The two of them are Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich. Itamar Ben-Gvir said, now there are no excuses. The time has come for absolute victory. Hamas's announcement allows Israel to realize its dreams. Dear Prime Minister, it's in your hands. It's time to realize our dreams. Our dreams, according to this distorted psychopathic maniac, is basically total destruction or maybe nuking Gaza. Then there was another statement coming from the demented finance minister, Bezalel Smotrich, who said that it's time to open the gates of hell, Prime Minister. Give the order, Prime Minister. It's time to open the gates of hell. Okay. Gates of hell he wants to open in Gaza. Why? Because the state of Israel will not surrender to Hamas. And we need to reach complete victory and realize all of the goals. Open the gates of hell, Prime Minister. Only ministers in Israel say that. Dreams are tied with butchered children and bloodbaths against infants and infanticide and genocide. And open the gates of hell. Only in Israel, exclusive to the chosen ones, these statements. Now, will Netanyahu go ahead on an all-out war? That's the important bit here. Is he going to escalate? Is he going to, that's it, all-out war? Oh, hell, no, of course not. He can't. He isn't in a position to. Let's not be deluded. He can kill people. He can kill people. He proves time after time that he can kill people, right? He has bombs to kill people. He lands them on tents, and they outright declare that we are stopping the aid and basically killing children to apply pressure on Hamas outright. And again, no outcry from anyone, not, the countries calling for human rights and what have you. Human rights goes in the cupboard when it's to do with their satanic little state over there. But there's a pressure. There's pressure internally, and this pressure is increasing. So yesterday we spoke about 100,000, the number reaching 100,000 in Israel, the people refusing. Today it's 120,000. 120,000 from the security establishment, from civilian society, doctors, medics, pilots, all parts of the Israeli army. 120,000 people in an outright letter saying that we should stop the war. We should stop the war at any cost. How is Benjamin Netanyahu going to go on an all-out war if he has that? He can't go on an all-out war. He's missing the troops in the genocide army. He's missing the full support. And there are clarifications to him from the IDF chief of staff, who told him several days back that it will not work. We cannot achieve our objectives with the current formula, with this level of shortage, and we will not be able to achieve your goals inside of the Gaza Strip. And these were the main things that I wanted to share with you in this live stream, everyone. I'm going to wrap the live stream here, unfortunately, due to the time limit today. But hopefully we'll have a Q&A maybe tomorrow or the day after. And I'll also have several other videos for you. In the meantime, everyone, thank you for tuning in for another live stream. Thank you for all of your participation and comments. Thank you for everyone who sent supers as well. In the meantime, stay blessed, take care, and I will see you soon in the next video. Peace, everyone. Salam.